Hello, everyone. It's Fred Staab and none other than Les Jackson, who is right there. And we are getting ready for a great hour here on Cruise Control. Hopefully, you stick around for both hours because we got a lot to get to, Les.
We
Good
do.
news for at least the two of us who like sedans. There's going to be a new Accord. It's going to have the biggest display in Honda history, over a foot long,
Wow.
and on the display for the nav. But good news, all new Accord. I'm glad to hear they're still going to make an Accord, aren't you?
Me too. I just think certain models should always be around. You'd miss them.
Yeah, yeah. And then another model I always liked is the Ford Escape. I know you had the hybrid
Yep.
of this, not version of this
Enjoyed it.
long. Of course, it comes in a non-hybrid, hybrid, and plug-in hybrid model. They've really updated it. Really nice enhancement to the vehicle. Good looks, and we're going to tell you about that. What they've done and some of the updates to it. So that's exciting. And then we're going to take you out to SEMA, where the Ring brothers are at it again. They have a quartet of incredible cars and trucks. And we're going to take you through some of their builds. There's some of the most detailed builds. When you stand and look at these things, Les, you cannot see like a hose clamp or a wire, stray wire. Everything's hidden. And I think their vehicles, you think like, oh, that's cool. They put wheels on it, or they lifted that old Blazer up or something like that. But you look at the detail.
Yeah, the hundreds and thousands of man hours making these things is just
Yeah.
amazing.
Like even that side marker light. You think, oh, yeah, it's just the
Yeah.
side marker light. Nope, it's something they've fabricated. And sometimes there are changes you don't even notice. But it's just incredible fabrication, incredible attention to detail. And then we're going to talk tech about a product that was revealed at SEMA. Could suspension movement charge your electric vehicle's battery? And one company says yes, they're going to repurpose this
Yep.
energy into charging.
Hey, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
I think it does.
any energy movement.
Yep. So we'll talk about that. And then one study says, since it's almost daylight savings time to fall back.
Ugh.
One study says if we went to it permanently, daylight savings time, we could save a lot of drivers and a lot of wildlife. Talking about deer.
I happen to be a firm advocate of getting rid of daylight saving.
Yeah, I think I fall into that
Uh,
group.
it Not a single claim about it was ever true.
Yeah, somebody made
Anyway,
money out of the deal.
I don't know. I
I
mean,
don't
did
know how
anybody
it
make
ever.
money?
It'd be interesting to dig into how that ever started.
Benjamin Franklin suggested it, uh,
But he didn't
but it
implement it.
wasn't enacted,
Yeah,
during his lifetime.
yeah. And then in our second hour, we're going to have at the wheel review talk about sedans. 50 miles to the gallon Sonata hybrid. I drove that. Incredible, luxurious car on the inside, and 50 miles to the gallon when it comes to range. That's crazy, isn't it?
Can't You just can't go wrong.
Yeah. And then also at SEMA, the folks over at Dodge have showed off their Charger concept, and it's gotten, well, it's red now. So
It's red.
yeah, we'll talk
I'm
about that.
noticing that's I've seen red before, and that's red.
They're going to have some different updates on the power levels and a whole lot more. So that's all coming up on Cruise Control when we go hot, when we go live. So stay tuned. We will be right back.
Staab, and Les Jackson.
Control.
Everything you need to know about new and used cars.
Control.
Industry news. We'll fix or repair your car on the air.
Control.
Fasten your seatbelts and let us take the wheel. Now, your ride is about to begin
Control.
because you're on cruise control. Cruise control. Cruise control.
Hey everyone, welcome to Cruise Control. This is your on-air automotive magazine. Of course, you know that because you watch us and listen to us every single week. I'm Les Jackson. The other guy you're about to hear is Fred Staab. And Fred, as usual, is manning the information booth.
The information folding table, Les.
Yes, it's actually staggering under the load. But here we go. We're going to cover a lot of stuff, so let's just get going.
Yeah, it really is an interesting week in the automotive industry because we've got the Sema show wrapping up, which always has some interesting new products and incredible hot rods and a lot of interesting vehicles from the factory, performance-oriented vehicles. Plus, we've got a lot of reveals this week, Les. A lot of new vehicles coming out for the 2023 model year, and we're going to talk about them, aren't we?
Absolutely true. One of them is Honda, and they're making, in fact, they just are about to announce the next generation of the Accord, which is, man, what a well-accepted model that is. It's been around for a better part of 30 years.
Yep.
Everybody loves them,
Yep.
including us.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Big screen.
Yeah, the big screen, yeah. It's over a 12.3-inch screen that they're going to have, and that's big news. But over at Ford, they're updating one of their popular models, the Ford Escape. Of course, this comes in regular hybrid and plug-in hybrid, and we've got some details on that. This thing allows you to slide your rear seat back and have almost limo-like room, leg room in the back of the vehicle, so we'll talk about that.
It's really a great idea. It's funny that that hasn't been done much in the past. And then you mentioned earlier Sema, that show which the public can't get into.
Right.
But it's an enormous industry show. Everybody is putting on their A game, and
they sure
we'll
are.
talk about some of them.
Yeah, we sure will, and they are the Ring Brothers.
Talking tech.
Yeah, well,
Talking tech.
we
got to
talk about the Ring Brothers, though,
about,
Les. It's pretty amazing what they do. The Ring Brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these things look like full-size Hot Wheels to me.
Well, they do. They do. And they're not as cheap as full-size Hot Wheels. What do you suppose the typical SEMA vehicle sells for eventually?
Well, I don't know if they get their money back for the amount of effort they put in them, but I would say something really high-end, probably 300,000, something like that.
I'm thinking probably $500,000.
Yeah, depending on the vehicle,
Yeah.
But
It's
you can't
fascinating.
recoup all that work, though. It's tremendous.
No, you can't.
But we're going to
You can't.
recoup a little bit and be right back with more Cruise Control. I'm Fred Staab. He is Les Jackson. We'll be right back.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Having some fun off mic here, but yes, it's all good, and we are glad you're with us. And like I said, this is an interesting week in the automotive industry. There's a lot of vehicles that we know and love coming back, some new updates, some new electrified vehicles, and then there was SEMA. So it's just a great time to be alive, Les Jackson, isn't it?
Well, it is, and it's a great time to be in new vehicles, which fortunately we get to do.
We do,
and but not enough of them. It's funny. I want more, and yet We can't find time for them.
Well, let's talk about one vehicle. I'm glad that they're going to still be producing it because the way things are going for sedans, a lot of sedans are
Yeah.
not making the cut. But this is the Honda Accord, and there's a new 11th generation model on the way of this, and it will have new styling. It will have the hybrid powertrain, which is a 50 mile to gallon type vehicle. First
Hmm.
integration of Google built in for seamless on the go connectivity. I didn't write that. And sporty, modern, smart, and comfortable. And it will have the largest touchscreen ever at 12.3 inches.
You know, that's a big screen for, the Accord is not a huge car.
Well, it's like
Not little,
TVs.
but
I saw a guy with a compact car trying to shove a 65-inch flat screen into his car. It's like, I wonder how big the house is he has. It's probably going to be as wide as
well,
the house.
put it on the roof,
And put it on the roof. Sit it
like a sheet of
outside. It's the only
plywood.
place. Yeah, in the driveway. So I
Mm.
guess it's sort of used to have horsepower and torque wars. Now maybe this is the new war, the biggest screen you can get. And of course, if you're in an electric vehicle, that could be virtually A pillar to A pillar.
Yeah, that's right.
But good for Honda for bringing out a new version of the
Well,
Accord,
and it's an American car for all practical.
made in Ohio.
Uh, it's built in Marysville, Ohio, along with the Civic, and it's most of the components are sourced right here in the U.S.
Yep, that is true. Let's talk about
Great car.
another vehicle that's built in the U.S. This is built in Kentucky. This is the Ford Escape. You drove one of these not that long ago and did an
I
at the
did,
wheel review, right?
and it had been quite a while since I had been in an Escape, and I was very, very pleasantly surprised with just how nice it is. It's one of those things you don't think about. Um, it's not mundane. It's just not exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But really good, just good vehicle.
Well, Ford's trying to make it a little bit more exciting. They've launched this new ST series, which is offered in three models, including the regular EcoBoost version, I guess, with a 1.5 liter EcoBoost engine with 180 horsepower with front wheel or available all wheel. Then there's the hybrid option with only front wheel drive. And then there is the 2-liter EcoBoost engine with 250 horsepower and standard all-wheel drive and an available hybrid option of that. That's the one I would want. I would want all-wheel drive.
Well, yeah, up there in the snow belt.
Up there in the snow belt. For the full hybrid model with front-wheel drive, the EPA estimates the range of at more than 550 miles.
It's just really impressive.
It's
Uh,
very impressive.
yeah,
And of course, there is a plug-in hybrid model that gets 32 miles of all-electric range. And you think about that. One of the benefits I've been thinking about with a plug-in hybrid model like that is you don't have to add a big charger to your house because you can literally charge that 32
yep,
mile range battery overnight in about 10 hours. So if you plug it
yeah.
in when you
Just
come home,
plug it into your 120-volt circuit,
and you're good to
uh,
go.
and next morning it's all ready. It's easy. It's not something that you need anything sophisticated other than
A socket.
go over there and open the little door for the socket and plug it in.
That's right. And it has different modes, the plug-in hybrid. In auto EV mode, the vehicle decides whether to run on gas or electric. In EV now, drivers can operate all electric driving. In EV later, they can switch to full gas-powered driving to conserve the electric for later, or they can even charge the battery as they drive along. Pretty cool system. I know it's a similar system in the Jeep Wrangler, which I always thought was great. Hey, charge the battery up while you're driving around. Why not, right?
Well, that's right. And this question has been asked of me twice recently, so I'll
Hold
answer it.
that, Les. You can answer that when we come back on Cruise Control.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control. We're going to move over from the electrics for a second, but I just wanted to mention before the break, there's a question that came up to me about charging your hybrids or electric vehicles, and the question comes up a lot, and that is, well, what about if it's raining? Can I plug it in?
Oh, yeah.
And the answer is yes. It's completely shielded. Just don't worry about if it's wet. Just plug it in. Everything is engineered to prevent any kind of shock or shorts.
Now, I have a question for you. What do you prefer for the charge port? Most I find are on the front fender, but I actually think it's better to be right in the front of the vehicle. But the bad part about that is if you hit something, you're going to crunch
You crunch it.
the charging area. So,
Yeah, I think for convenience and length of cord, the front makes sense. But that said, if I bought one, I would have it on the fender.
and I can't, in any application, I can't not use an extension cord. They say don't use an extension cord, but I have a heavy
Yeah.
extension cord. I got to use it, you know?
Well, as long as you have an extension cord that can take the amperage, which for home voltage is only 20 amps. Um, sure.
Yeah.
But they're assuming the average person has one of those little brown
light cord.
extension cords
A light
for
cord,
their lamps. Well, no, don't plug that in.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyway, just thought I'd ask that. But let's jump to something completely different. The Ring brothers are a couple of brothers that build some incredible vehicles. They are the most detailed vehicles I have seen at SEMA. I mean, you just keep looking at these vehicles and you see something new every time you look at it, and just incredible detail. They do things that you would think people would never notice, but they just do it for themselves. They're based in Spring Green, Wisconsin. They're also premium parts builders for many vehicles. They build all kinds of things like hood hinges and things that you need when you're restoring a vehicle. But the level of detail when they build custom vehicles is incredible. I mean, it is just incredible. And they brought a quartet of them out to SEMA. The first one we're going to talk about is called the Bully, and it is based around a 1972 Chevrolet K5 Blazer. I think that was one of the best looking front ends on a Chevy pickup from the factory. And they've actually kept the grill primarily, but tons of machined and 3D printed parts on this vehicle. Air intake through the hood that's ducted down to the engine. They put 8,500 hours into the fabrication on this vehicle.
Wow.
And what's
That
cool about their
that's
vehicles,
almost
it looks stock, but when you walk up to it, it's not stock.
that's within 200 hours of 1 year.
Yep.
24 hours a day year.
Yep.
Man.
And it's funny that a vehicle named Bully is painted bashful blue. Custom carbon fiber fender flares, a billet supercharger cover on the inside. It's just amazing, isn't it?
I mean, their stuff almost looks like a factory had stamped everything out, after millions and millions of dollars of machine tool making.
Well, here's another one. This almost looks like a Hot Wheels vehicle.
Yeah,
It's called the Enyo. It's a 1948 Chevrolet Super Truck. It looks like it's got NASCAR wheels and tires on it. No fenders. and a cool suspension out in the back bed. 510 cubic inch tall deck engine
Of
uh,
course.
with 1,000 horsepower. Kinsler 8-stack injection. Kind of maybe a sort of a dirt track influence too. Um, just a cool looking vehicle. Custom one-off chassis, tube chassis built on this. I tell you what, it is crazy, isn't it?
It really is. Turns out they actually have a customer for this. This was because they had said that they found the right customer to commission the build. So,
That's how a lot of these vehicles happen.
yeah.
Someone
Who,
comes in and
who,
says,
who do you think is going to own this and what are they going to do with it?
"I don't know," but I don't know if they'll drive it. I don't know if they'll show it. But that's what happens. Yeah, they come in and say, "I want you to build me this hot rod." But I would think with the Provence of the Ring brothers, I mean, even the brackets to hold up that that
Yeah.
radiator mounted in the rear bed of this thing, um, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. We have some pictures up on our Facebook page if you want to follow along the Cruise Control Radio Facebook page. But these people commission these things and they just want to see it built. Now, let's move on to something they call the Patriarch. This is their take on a 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1, one of my favorite editions of the Mustang. And, it's low to the ground, big tires stuffed into the fender wells. You look at that work on that fender well lip, you would think that was factory.
You would, and yet there isn't a matching piece you can buy that'll fit it
I know.
because they've all been fabricated.
And if you like Chevys, well, they got that handled too. They had a 1965 Chevrolet Camaro called Strode, and what they do a lot of times is they take elements of the new vehicle and put it back into the older vehicle, and you look at how these things sit and how they look, and
Yeah.
just the quality of it. I mean, it's amazing. Every piece gets touched. Every piece gets worked on, and they've integrated some of the bezels for the new Camaro's dash into the old Camaro's dash. It's just incredible. It's art. I mean, it really is art, isn't it?
It really is. It's a legitimate art form, whether you happen to like cars or not. It takes tremendous talent to do this.
And like I said, basically, the work they do, some of it you don't even know it's been done. So
No.
it's kind of makes it interesting. And it all comes down to people that have a lot of money that want to commission this and say work on it for 2 or 3 years. Same thing with Chip Foose and a lot of these builders. We kind of think of, well, I want to take this car and I want to bring it to them and have them painted or change the suspension for the stance or whatever. And it's, nice vehicle. And that's one of the things I like about the Ken Diggett, the show, Ken Dig show. They'll do cars, anything from I'm just putting a rear suspension on this to a full build. So it kind of shows the full gamut. Like,
That's right.
hey, you got a nice car, but we'll tweak it up. We'll put a nicer exhaust system on it. We'll update it a bit, and or to a complete build. So I kind of like that. I think it shows.
Well,
the full
yeah. I
range.
mean, it's certainly not inexpensive because
None of
these
it
people
is.
spend hundreds and hundreds of man hours, even for an exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
But they're perfect.
They're perfect. Yeah, it's the last exhaust you will need on that car. Probably when they sell it, it's got a Ken Diggett exhaust.
Oh yeah, probably $10,000 just to put an exhaust system on, but it'll work.
Yeah, it will work. It will certainly work. So big stuff at SEMA. When we come back, we're going to tell you, we're going to talk a little tech. Kind of a unique piece to be seen at SEMA, but it's a way for recovering energy from your suspension that
Yep.
can charge your battery. One of the big uses of it will be in the trucking industry, and it showed up at SEMA because SEMA is where you see all this stuff where people let their minds go wild, and we're going to let our minds go wild in just a little bit. Stay tuned to Cruise Control.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to Cruise Control. You know us. This time, every once in a while somebody comes up with a really, really smart idea that you say, well, how come nobody else thought of that?
Yeah.
And this is one of them. This is generating electricity from the movement of your suspension.
Hey, with potholes the way they are, that's a lot of movement.
Oh, I could power an entire city.
Did you ever watch those videos where people put a camera on their suspension? It's moving constantly, isn't it?
Oh, never. Other than when you're stopped, it never stops moving. It's even though the movements may be slight.
Yeah.
Tremendous. And then you think, this thing moves like that for 100,000 miles, millions upon millions of times without braking.
Yeah, it's pretty good engineering. Well,
pretty good.
Over at the Sema show, we told you about some hot rods built by the Ring brothers, the Sema Specialty Equipment Marketing Association. I always say the most generic name when you spell it out, but it's certainly not generic. It is a show that just wrapped up in Las Vegas, and not only do they have cool hot rods, but they have a lot of new products. And this one comes from Gig Performance, and when I first read this, I looked at the name of it. It's called Roadkill 5000 with one
Automatically, you think, well, this is just a joke.
This is a gag, right? And
yeah,
it's sort of a planetary gear flywheel type looking thing, a counter rotating generator, and it's got some brackets that you mount on your suspension, and it captures the shock movement. So basically, what it does, this thing starts getting bumped around by the suspension of the vehicle, and it starts rotation of a generator, which captures 2 times the power of the movement, and it converts energy from kinetic energy to electric energy. And you say, well, how could I use this? Well, one of the big ways they're talking about using this is on tractor trailers. On the trailer, especially if you have a refrigerated van, those systems have batteries in them, and this would recharge that battery as boom, 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 it's going down the highway. That's one way. It could also be used as a range extender for electric vehicles, because this would constantly be charging the battery. What do you think about that?
It's got to work. And if you think about it, it's an old technology. Remember, all of us, well, not all of us, but many of us grew up with toys that you used to have to, they were a little mechanical
Friction
centrifugal
toys.
Device, friction toy, and you'd keep pumping it and spin it up, and then this is what that is. But it's using that energy to create electricity, and man, otherwise it's just wasted energy. It's been.
Yeah, it just goes into
century.
the atmosphere, basically. Doesn't get captured, and
Yep.
I think we'll probably see this extend to electric vehicles to extend that range out. It is.
Yep, I think so.
I don't know what it weighs. Of course, it's got to be more efficient than what it weighs.
Well,
you can't
true,
cut range by adding weight and then add it back, and your net effect is 0. But I think it's more efficient than that. We only know what we know about this. It's patent pending. And basically, the CEO, Brandon Barkdale, says our product is helping EVs charge on the go so they can stay on the road longer. Range is the biggest obstacle to EV adoption, and we're excited to help solve this with our technology. There you have it.
That's
Les.
right. Well, I think that it will, even if it's a break even if the amount of electricity it creates is equal to the amount of energy that the car is expending to move the suspension, you're still charging the battery.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's you're not losing, you're just keeping energy.
Well, one thing that comes to mind to me is the military is looking for electric vehicles to do severe off-roading.
Yeah, well,
And if you're moving this, if you ever watch like the Baja 1000 and watch those videos
incredible.
of the suspension moving, there's a lot of movement there, isn't it?
It's like 30 inches.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so a lot of up and down. You're flying through the air and you're landing. Wouldn't this be great for that? It'd be constantly charging the
terrific.
battery. Put one on every wheel. What do you think?
Oh, I think there will be one on every wheel.
Yeah, and it will just
Makes
be
sense.
charging it up. I mean, it is not. It is not. What do they call that? The energy generating machine.
It's not perpetual motion.
Perpetual motion. It's just recovering motion that would
Yeah,
have otherwise not been tapped.
that would have been wasted as heat.
You remember we did a story a long time ago about BMW wanting to create steam by putting a jacket around the catalytic
Yeah.
converter that would superheat water or some liquid and generate steam that would generate electricity to charge the battery.
Well, which it would.
But it's that's a lot to have to go on there.
Well, I think you're going to have a big box and it's full of water or some fluid if you want to recover the steam. I think it's not cost effective and maybe not space effective. Where would you put it?
I could see something like that on a ship, where there's
On a ship for
there's
sure. They,
heat.
you know what? They probably have stuff like that on ships.
You'd think of the heat in the bearings of a propeller shaft. That could be
Yeah.
recovered, couldn't it?
Boy, I would imagine. I mean, just the loads on the bearings must be uh, incredible.
Well, also think of what we just talked about here. This for gathering motion. You put that on a ship, and you're in rough seas. You're generating power with that. Pretty good, right?
I wouldn't know because I'd be leaning over the rail.
You'd be generating something else.
I'd be, I would be just begging to kill me.
It was sort of a green tone, but
Very, very green.
yeah. Well, this definitely has some uses. You could even use it on an airplane. Imagine turbulence.
I
If you had a rough
don't know
flight.
about that.
All right.
Why not just a little turbine spinning
They have
a
those.
generator?
They have those. If you have on Airbus, if you have a complete engine failure, you deploy this little turbine that pops out and
Right.
it keeps enough power going on the vehicle so you could lower the landing gear or you can operate the control surfaces or the computer. I always thought it would be fun to find one of those in a aircraft scrapyard and use it somehow.
I'll bet that is one expensive little generator.
Oh yeah, but cool.
And then where would you put it?
I don't know. It's just a weird idea.
You can't use it as a wind generator. You need to be doing about 400 miles an hour.
That's right. That's right. You'd need to get a big fan to drive it, which would be
Perfect.
Hey, let's talk about the Kia Sorento. They've announced their pricing on it for 2023, and they've upgraded many things on it, and it includes a generous array of standard features. This is like a
Yep,
mini Telluride.
as usual.
And
As usual.
starts out with the LX at $29,990, which I'm sure is nicely equipped. Goes up to $32,490 for the S. You keep going up. The LX all-wheel drive, by the way, is $31,490. And then they have their X lines, which are the little bit more aggressive-looking vehicles. X line EX all-wheel drive, $39,000. And then you get to the top of the range, X line SXPAW D Pod, $43,590. Got two engine choices: a 2.5-liter 4 with an 8-speed automatic, 191 on the horsepower. And then if you get boosted at 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, 281 horsepower. Miles per gallon is not bad for the all-wheel drive models. For the turbo model, all-wheel drive, 28 on the highway, 21 city, aggregate 24. And for the all-wheel drive non-turbo one, believe it or not, you get worse mileage. 25 highway, 23 city, 24 aggregate. With same aggregate number there. But lots of trim options. Really a mini Telluride, wouldn't you say?
It is, yeah. By the way, have you
Also made
noticed,
in the U.S., by the way, made in Georgia.
which is great, it's a domestic vehicle.
Yeah.
Something that I meant to talk to you about before is about 20 years ago, all the manufacturers were telling us each of our models were only going to offer it in 3 usually different configurations for economies of scale.
We will
And
talk
so,
about this
now-
after the break. We got a break coming up. We'll be
All
right
right.
back.
Cruise Control.
Welcome back to Cruise Control. Fred Staab, Les Jackson, automotive stuff.
Automotive stuff. We are the car guys.
Yep. We got a lot to talk about, Les. It's we were telling you just want to finish up your point you were making. You were making the point that in the old days they said we're going to have 3 levels of
Yeah.
trim. But you look at Kia, they've got 1,
10.
2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, all on this on the new Sorento.
And this is true of pretty much all the manufacturers now. And it was, in the old days, you ordered everything you wanted piece by piece on a car. Then about 20 years ago, the manufacturer said, look, we're just going to make packages and we'll have maybe
Levels.
3 models of each vehicle for economies of scale. Now it's back. Not, you can't order specific things, but the number of packages are huge.
And good thing about Kia is that everything comes with it. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
even a base model would not be terrible. May not have the fanciest seats, but it will be a good vehicle.
It'll be pretty much everything you wanted,
Yeah.
minus things like moonroofs, which I
That's
don't want
one-
them.
I don't use moonroofs. I
I
have one on my
just don't-
vehicle. I don't think I've opened it more than 5
I
times.
I would probably never open it. I've never, honestly, I haven't opened one on a test car in years,
Yeah.
many years.
Don't need it, and it's all that. I'd rather have a solid piece of steel over my
Yeah.
head.
Same here.
Hey, let's talk about a solid piece of steel. How about the Nissan Z GT4? This is the racing edition, the Nismo edition. And this is not a streetable thing, but it sure looks good.
It sure looks like fun.
Yes. It was first revealed at the end of September, and of course now it is out being shown at Sema. I wonder if they're pushing this around out in the parking lot at the big eBay area out front, where they take vehicles out and they drift them around and they do jumps with trucks. Pretty amazing what they do out there. I think the public can go to that.
Public can go.
I would just walk in and just look like I belong if I wasn't at the show.
Yeah, we've when we've been out at the show, we've taken a few minutes to go out and look at some of these displays and some of these events that they do, the drifters.
I rode with Ken Block, actually. It was crazy. At one point, after he spun around for the 15th time, I was like, I'm going to close my eyes now.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
You never went straight.
No, you never went straight. And I remember it was a little Ford, and he had that big custom handle, brake handle, and he pulled it back.
Right, yeah, the big.
And he he puts the thing to the floor, and it's just being held there and shaking. And he looks at me and goes, "You ready?" And I go, "Yeah." And he just looks at me, and he lets his hand out like this, and the brake handle slips out of his. And I was like, "Holy crap!" And we go right down to the end of this. There's people on this side. We go right down to
Yeah,
the end.
that's
He pulls the handle, and the car just turns completely to the left, like you picked it up and turned it. I was like, "Wow, okay."
yep,
I was like, "All right." Here we
yep.
go.
I'm gonna get sick on this ride.
Whoa, I was like, okay, I wouldn't want to do this all day long, but that's what he did. Yeah.
That's what he did. Yeah,
I,
he's
I love the
he's
handle
good at
slipping
it.
out of his hand, though. That was incredible. I was like, all right, well, what's this do? Okay, so this is the race version of the Nissan Z, the GT4. It's got, I believe, 450 horsepower. It's obviously turbocharged. It is a beast. It's a good looking beast. I think obviously that's a race car interior as you look at it. That's
For certain.
tube roll cage and stripped out. So they showed off that. They also showed something though that you might be able to drive on the street, and that was the new GTR, which is a beautiful vehicle. Beautiful I always love the interior of these things.
They're terrific, and they're probably the most performance you can get for the money.
Yep. And that was revealed. It certainly looks familiar in its shape. Pricing starts at $113,540, which is a lot of money. I wonder what these things sell for used.
Probably 113,000.
I sell for 115,000 used.
Yeah.
It has got a 3.8 liter twin turbo V6, 565 horsepower. I've driven one of these things. They drive wonderfully.
Yeah, I drove one briefly a few years back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not terrible. Like you could drive it on the street for sure.
You could. Yeah, don't hit potholes.
No, you generate a lot of energy in that with that. And then the GTR Nismo version has 600 horsepower.
And a whole lot more
Nismo-tuned
race
suspension.
stuff.
Which means there's very limited damping. Carbon fiber bodywork.
And $90,000 added.
Yep, $210,740. Put your order in today.
Could I get it in purple?
If you pay enough, you can get it in purple. I'm sure. So, cool vehicle that is out there. Let's talk about something though that's happening right this weekend, and that is daylight savings time. You fall back, right? So you get an extra hour of sleep. Your
nemesis.
Well, this is one of the things that I think I fall into the category, like you said, of not of thinking maybe it's time to do something different here. I never thought about it too deeply, and it is an annoyance to go through and change all the clocks. And it's depressing, too, when you get up and it's dark. I used to hate that in the winter when you go to work and it's dark, you come home and it's dark.
Yeah. Well, that's right. And it's there are some politicians who want to get rid of daylight saving but keep it at daylight saving hours, which is absurd. That means it wouldn't be light in the morning until close to 9 o'clock in the dead of winter. That's a dumb idea.
That's dumb. Well,
anyway.
this study it's in the Journal of Current Biology. I know that's one I read often.
I was just reading it this morning.
Yeah. And it says if we made daylight savings permanent, it would prevent 37,000 car deer crashes, save 33 human lives, 2,000 injuries and repair costs, not to mention the deer. Because when you collide with a deer, it's you can die easily. It can go through the windshield,
Yep, that's right. And the poor deer suffers, but your car's going to not necessarily drive away from it.
Yeah, and they typically come out at night about 6:30 at night. I've always found to eat.
Yeah. Well, the ones wearing watches.
on their leg. Yeah, yeah. But I think this is something we should all think about. Believe it or not, 2.1 million deer vehicle collisions occur in the United States each year.
Just sad.
Need to have collateral coverage for that, because if you don't, you're paying for it.
And it's on you. Yeah.
It's on you. Yeah, and
it's funny.
No fault of your own. A thing comes out of nowhere, and that's it, right? Have you ever hit a deer? I haven't.
I've never hit a deer. I've been confronted by deers on dark roads, driving usually up in the Northeast at night, probably a half a dozen times, but I've reacted fast enough to not hit them.
All right, well, you got to react this week and the weekend and fall back on your clocks, but who knows? Maybe that will change and we'll all be safer for it. Time for me to say I'm Fred Staab.
I'm Les Jackson.
We're going to see you down the road.
Bye.